Hello, listeners. Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network designed specifically for higher ed marketing leaders. Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, hosted by Jamie Hunt, Chief Marketing Officer at Old Dominion University, has become an industry favorite. The show is sort of like a conference in a podcast, offering a blend of professional wisdom, innovative ideas, and personal anecdotes. Whether you're a higher ed marketer, a faculty member curious about the behind the scenes of university branding, or just someone with an interest in the intersection of education and marketing, the podcast is your gateway to the lesser known narratives of higher education. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Mastering the Next, a cutting-edge podcast that explores the future of graduate, online, and non-traditional education through the lens of AI and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ray Lutsky, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Element 451. Join me every 2 weeks for discussions with some of the thought leaders shaping the future of graduate enrollment management through technology. Mastering the Next is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that helps institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. In this episode, we're chatting with Troy Cogburn, Vice President for Enrollment and Marketing at Manhattanville University in Purchase, New York. Manhattanville caters to a broad spectrum of academic and professional interests across more than 70 graduate and certificate programs ranging from business management to biomedical sciences. And we're here to talk about Manhattanville's place in the future of private university graduate education. Troy, so glad to have you on the podcast, and congratulations on Manhattanville College just recently becoming Manhattanville University.
Thanks so much, Ray. It's great to join you. And yes, it's an exciting time at Manhattanville University. We are officially Manhattanville University. After last week, we had an exciting week of fun activities for the entire community.
I want to start by asking, what's next for Manhattanville University in the realm of graduate education, particularly in terms of new or revised degree programs?
There's a lot of new, exciting initiatives under our 15th president, Frank D. Sanchez, that we are looking to really start laying the groundwork for. Some things are in the near term, some things we're shooting for in the distant future. But one thing that he announced during his inauguration last week, and that I'm really excited about, is our plan over the next several years is to create pathways in every single one of our undergraduate programs for students to complete their master's in either a 4+1 format or a combined degree format, understanding that advanced education is really what's starting to set students apart in the marketplace, but it's also a way for our population keeping that attainment a reality through reduced costs and helping them save towards their graduate education. So looking at 4+1 programs, combined degree programs, we have 3 schools of study, and we're looking to do that in all 3 of them. Then we're also looking at new programs of tomorrow, right? And then the way in which those new programs are offered, because we feel like that's an important aspect for any adult pursuing a graduate degree. So this fall, we're launching our master's in computer science, which we're very excited about, which will automatically have these 4+1 pathways in our programs at the undergraduate level with data science, computer science, biology, biochemistry. We are also launching this fall a cybersecurity program. We're starting at the undergraduate level, but with an intention of adding a graduate level offering pretty soon after that. But over in our School of Education, we've also just completely revamped our undergraduate offerings. In New York State, it's pretty complicated to become an educator. And a lot of times, students will pursue education and then another program at the undergraduate level, be it history or psychology or something in the sciences. They have to do a combined degree. And then it still takes an additional 2 or 3 years for a student to get their full certification and specialization. So we've completely adjusted that timeline for students with direct entry programs at the undergraduate level that then allow them to gain certifications with special education, with literacy, with physical education at the graduate level in a much shorter time frame. We're not calling it an exact 4+1, but once we get them through the cycle, I believe we will be able to achieve something very close to that.
I'd like to double click on that for a second. Within the fields of computer science, cybersecurity, nursing, we're talking about an evolving workforce, as you just mentioned. I'm curious how Manhattanville is addressing those evolving needs in your graduate programs and perhaps give us some examples.
Right. And I think the mode of format is the one that's changing the quickest. Our school that I left out was our School of Nursing and Health Sciences. We launched last year a program for family nurse practitioners, and that was through an online format during this past cycle. And it's been much more popular than we had initially anticipated. We initially ran that program on ground for its first 2 years, and the enrollment more than tripled when we switched to an online format. And then I think that we always keep cost in mind and not trying to just price something because, they're graduates, so they should pay more. We really try to understand the student in addition to the marketplace so that we can price that program appropriately for everyone to be successful and then hopefully gain that advanced employment that they're so seeking. And the program was so popular online this past year, we've been able to launch our advanced certificate in family nurse practitioner this summer, which we're already seeing growing interest in. And I think that that online format and that price awareness have been really effective. And that's what we're looking to do with all of our programs. So we're really reassessing the degree types, how they help the student really advance their career, when they're offered. In the School of Education, we're looking more at hybrid formats and some online programs. Educators are all stretched thin these days, especially in the K through 12 sector, in the public sector. So trying to meet them where they are is important. We've also applied for the federal Teach Grant that would help our graduate educators coming back, I guess, in pursuing those graduate studies if they had already done the undergraduate program with us. Again, looking at ways to save money on the front end because we know there's less on the back end when they're in their graduate programs. So that's another way we're looking at those groups. And then in the next few years, with our business programs, we're starting to also look at online programs. They fall under our School of Arts and Sciences, where we do have an approach of in person for things like biomedical sciences, the MFA program. Those are strong in person cultures. But in business, we're also starting to see from our populations, right? Cost, availability are so important to them, and online offerings appear to be the more popular way moving forward.
And that makes a lot of sense when you look at national trends. The fields you just mentioned, education, business, nursing, being done online. Clearly, these meet workforce demand in a big way. You referred to the rise of digital learning platforms. I'm curious how Manhattanville is enhancing its programs through online and hybrid. What are the changes?
Right. One of the major changes that we're excited about, we're undergoing our internal launch right now, is we've transitioned away from Blackboard, which was, I think, always more of a K through 12 software. But at a smaller college like Manhattanville, there were some benefits to it. The ease of use and the understanding for students as they transitioned from high school to undergrad and then to undergraduate programs, which has been the trend for a lot of our students for a number of years. The We're moving into bright space technology, which is more advanced. It's definitely easier for faculty to use, which I think is the first step. If faculty feel comfortable, then the students will feel more comfortable in their use of software and then understanding that mode in which they're learning. We've also incorporated our career development office more at the undergraduate and the graduate level. And one of our primary areas of focus moving forward is this use of AI technology, but having students understand that AI is a tool, but you, the person, are also important in any process. So, for example, uh, if we have a student who's enrolled in our MBA program today and they have an opportunity through a faculty member in the program to do an internship that could lead to employment, what we're finding is students are always in a hurry. They want to update their resume, so they go to ChatGPT and they ask ChatGPT how to build a resume. But we've tried to stop the process there, and whether they're undergraduate or graduate, have them connect with the career counselor to learn the questions to even ask of ChatGPT before they build a resume, right? And then how to incorporate their own voice into whatever the final document is so that they can understand that ChatGPT or any of these other software devices, they're definitely useful in propelling the story. That we don't want to run away from that. Our faculty don't. But you also have to understand that you play the most important vital piece, right? In not selling yourself, but in letting those that are potentially going to hire you understand who you are.
I want to stick with that topic for a second. This is so critical. When you think about the impact of generative AI on business and education, and you just referred to something known as prompt engineering, knowing how to ask the best questions to get the best answers. It speaks broadly to the connection between industry and what's going on for your graduate students. So, how does the university foster connections between graduate students and industry to enhance those career opportunities post graduation? You've addressed this a bit in the way you talked about AI, but how else are you building those connections?
I think in each of our schools, that answer would be different, right? In a school of education, things are pretty straightforward. You know that you have to teach in a school district, right? And then it's really uh, that learning is happening in your academic classroom of how you will then ultimately teach the student. I think that Manhattanville, in in our school of education, the extra step is always taken by educating the educators. So whether it's through our Changing Suburbs Institute or our Rose Institute, we try to bring the community in while also training our future educators or those just seeking an additional advanced standing through like school building leadership or programs like that. Whereas in our School of Nursing and Health Sciences, yes, a lot of the AI is also embedded into their culture and the things that they just have to learn, right, as future nurses or radiologic technologists. But tying them to facility is important. We try to embrace the technology within the classroom, so they have a lot of the bells and whistles that are cool and have neat long names that I can't remember, that they walk students through during their entire experience. And at the graduate level, for something like family nurse practitioner, they actually come to campus for a full weekend and do residency with us. Even though it is online, they have to be in person at some point, right? As a nurse. So, to get that physical aspect, that is definitely a component of it that's separate to anything clinically related. I think in the world of business, though, that's where we're still shifting and adjusting and advancing for tomorrow. In the past, it's always been connect with a career office, those in person relationships are what matter. And you didn't need to necessarily have AI represented in who you were or who you were becoming. And I think that now that's changing in the business world. They're calling for more. And with us, we try to use our Center for Design Thinking or Life Design Hub in the way that we kind of embrace this for our undergraduate and graduate students. Quite frankly, it's learning that empathetic approach to understanding a challenge, a problem, and then seeing it from different eyes outside of yourselves. That's a very layman's approach to explaining design thinking, but then also now incorporating technology and AI into that experience, I think is the next step in our business programs outside of just, the way in which you're learning. And then you have things like MFA, again, that or the biomedical sciences or cybersecurity, that they're just kind of built in, intuitive, right? That they're going to move forward, and the way that we train and develop will vary. There is an announcement coming that I'm not allowed to give you today, but there's something, a new partnership that will be for our graduates, students, that I guess that's a cliffhanger for you, that we'll be announcing in the next few months, that's actually going to take this digital piece to the next step. And I think our business students are going to see the impact of that first.
Hey, it's Mallory. Exciting news! I'm hosting the Engage Summit in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, and I'd love to meet you there. Together, we'll dive into the mind of the modern student, what fires them up, how they interact, and what they expect in today's digital age, and how tools like AI help put them in the driver's seat of their education. We have some terrific speakers, including our closing keynote, New York Times bestselling author Jeff Selingo. Sessions will dig into practical ideas and innovative strategies to get your team more student centered and ready to adopt AI. And many of your favorite Enrollify hosts are presenting too, like Jamie Hunt, Jenny Lee Fowler, and Brian Gross. Use the discount code Enrollify50 for an extra $50 off your registration. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
It's really interesting when you talk about the different disciplines, how diverse those needs are and how you're really serving diverse professional backgrounds, diverse academic backgrounds. And I'm curious how Manhattanville's graduate programs are structured to support that kind of diversity in the perspectives of your students.
Right. And I think you come from this world, and you've seen it from an enrollment side. And I think for years, a lot of us in enrollment have said, You have to look at these programs as individuals. Yes, they are collective, but the student type, the student need, it's different, right? The student cost is different for every type of program, and all of those things matter in delivering a product that is successful, which means they will be able to advance their career and hopefully create a better life for themselves. And at Manhattanville, that has always been essential to us. We're number one in the US News for social mobility in regional universities north, and that's because of the way that we have this approach. And right now we have three academic schools of study. So obviously we're going to start looking at within those umbrellas where are the additional levers of support, whether it be in advising. We talked earlier about a lot of 4+1 programs, right? And a lot of those live in our School of Arts and Sciences. But with so many pathways, clarity is important. Making sure faculty administrators are all aware, that's all essential. Whereas in our School of Nursing and Health Sciences, our family nurse practitioner, our nursing leadership program, that's really built for the professional coming in. They want to connect with those educators immediately, and that's what we try to deliver to those students. There's not any of this 4+1 business really happening. It's about creating different avenues. We also, in that school, for instance, we have a pharmacy technician program that's also offered online, and they can complete this program in about 3 or 4 months. We have a partnership with Walgreens, and they can come out working. So whether they're undergraduate or graduate, if they're especially a nurse leader who's more of an administrator type, not going into a direct field, we wanted to create this other opportunity that could help financially while you are trying to attain your advanced standing degree. Then you have our School of Education, right? That is, again, it's straightforward in terms of format, the need, but educators we also recognize are not probably paid their value the most. So it's about finding new graduate assistantships and creating, again, opportunities cost-wise that makes sense with it, with what's happening in the market, and continuing to foster relationships that we have, build new relationships that make more sense for tomorrow, not leaving out like the paraprofessional in a school of education, finding an avenue for them to make their way through that isn't jumping through holes for 15 years, so that they can ultimately earn their masters and move on. For us, it's really about approaching it each school. What are the needs of the students? Who are the students? What are the services that are most important to them? And then how can we as a university make that all possible? And I have a great partner and a provost who we always communicate, so I don't have to be surprised about some obscure program that doesn't have all of those things we've been discussing in mind all of a sudden appearing, right? Because that's the big fear, is that somebody's going to create some niche program that there's no market for, and that there's no seamless way for a graduate student to really enroll and then also find opportunity. I think those days are over. They ended before COVID, but I would say for Manhattanville, they're certainly over.
And that collaboration is critical. And I want to double back on something that you just mentioned about social mobility and relating that to the ability of a student to be working or achieving income while they're in school. I'm curious to hear how Manhattanville is working to ensure the affordability of its graduate programs without compromising on quality and the student experience. What's been the approach?
I think this is an area that we're working on now. So there's not some shining star that I'm going to point to for you in this answer, except to say it's since I've arrived to the university in August 2021, I noticed that this was an area that we were lacking, is looking at affordability options for that graduate student. So I had mentioned earlier the Teach Grant as something we're looking at, and if we can get past these other FAFSA delays, maybe we'll get our approval form, which we fully expect for this fall. And yes, that isn't a direct impact on the undergraduate side, but the way our programs are set up, we believe that would also help the graduate students. Graduate assistantships are something that we're also in the early stages of growing. The MFA program is the first program we've really been able to invest in something like this and make at least four fellowships available to students on an annual basis. They're able to get more out of it because they're also doing active teaching while they're in their graduate program, getting to work with some of our undergraduate students, but they're also doing a lot of literary work for our magazine and developing their own professional profile. Then in our School of Arts and Sciences with our business programs, again, that's where we're undergoing a big transition right now and trying to make that program as affordable and beneficial as possible. I think we have fantastic programs, but we are going to be resorting just credit distribution so that students don't have to take credits that are just not applicable to their interests and where their fields of focus are. We don't need a 42 credit program. So we're going to a model that looks at closer to 30 credits and the requirement for a master's that will allow still for flexibility, whether they'd like to take courses in person, moving more into the online route. I would say over time, but having it be in more of a sequence that's cohorted, where you feel like you're connecting with like-minded peers that could eventually become partners right out in the professional world. That was our initial approach. Now, as we look to new program opportunities, we've recently switched a business leadership program over into organizational leadership, seeing that is really a more modernized approach, I think. Business leadership is something that was more of the past. So that's kind of where we're going in those areas.
And that's interesting because it brings me to our final question. You're talking about the future and things you might do to develop more affordable and industry oriented programs. There are a lot of exciting things happening at Manhattanville right now. So use your crystal ball. What role do you see the university's education playing in the broader landscape of higher education in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think Manhattanville University will continue to play a critical role in the community right in front of us in Westchester County, in Fairfield County, for sure. I think that now, though, we're going to be able to expand the reach that much more. The more that we're establishing that online digital presence, I think that will be beneficial. Our School of Education is ranked highly throughout this entire region, and our educators are able to teach in most states throughout the country. And we offer so many different advanced certification opportunities that I think that exposure will only continue to grow now that we're a university, and that's exciting. I think that our School of Nursing and Health Sciences, which I should actually point out, we launched during COVID, and this was through, unfortunately, some of the changes we've seen in New York with regard to the enrollment landscape. Manhattanville was thriving, and unfortunately, the College of Nurse Shell closed. And we saw value in their programs because there are some wonderful people working there, and they have built a school of nursing here and only grown beyond what was originally possible for them. So I'm glad that we've been able to keep people in this field that's been in such a disruption now for really the last 5 years. So I'm excited for all the new opportunities there because they're very thoughtful and they aren't going to just add programs that sound popular. It's all about adding value to the community right in front of us. And I think that that's so necessary. And they're very much focused on inclusivity and they recognize the value in working with students in Black and Brown communities that are highly underserved, but so much want to be a nurse. They're finding the ways to teach them about the entire medical field and the different ways that they can contribute to it. So I think that there's a lot of good that will be done in the community for both undergraduate and graduate students.
That's a great place to leave our conversation. Congratulations again on everything happening at Manhattanville University. Troy Cogburn, Vice President for Enrollment and Marketing at Manhattanville University, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ray.
The Mastering the Next podcast is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Cadieux, J.C. Bonilla, Mallory Wilsey, Brendan Henkel, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.